Hey, Hare Krishna everyone, Danvat Pranam, Jai Shila Prabhupada. Please accept my humble obeisances. We'll start Bhagavad Gita chapter 13 today. And this chapter is called Kshetra Kshetragya Vibhag Yog. So, and in English, this is called Nature, the Enjoyer, and Consciousness. So we are entering into the Gyan Yoga portion of Bhagavad Gita. We finished the Karma Yoga and the Bhakti Yoga portion, which was divided into 6 chapters each, and now the last 6 chapters deal more with the knowledge. So Gyan Yoga. So we'll recite Mangalacharan and start 13th chapter. Please, everybody, recite these auspicious prayers. Om
तिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानञ्जलशलाकया चक्षुर्मिलितेन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः।
तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः।
श्रीमनोविष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयंरूपा कदा मह्यं ददाति सम्पदाङ्कितम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीपदकमलं श्रीगुरुन् वैष्णवांश श्रीरूपं सागरजातं सगं रघुनाथं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं श्रीकृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपदान् ललिता श्रीविशाखानिध्वांश सप्तकाञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी अनुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये।
राधाकान्ता नमोस्तुते।
राधाकान्ता नमस्तुते।
सप्तकाञ्चना गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी
राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी
विश्वानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये।
हरिप्रिये।
तरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यः च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः।
जय श्री कृष्ण
श्री कृष्ण
चैतन्य
चैतन्य
अन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृंद।
हरे
कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे।
राम राम हरे हरे।
ओम विष्णुपादाय कृष्णाय भक्ति वेदांत स्वामिनी नामिने
नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे
देवे
गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे
गौरवाणी निर्विशेषा
निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशधारिणे
मुखं करोति
मुखं
वाचालं
करोति वाचालं
पङ्गुं
लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमः वन्दे तारकं परमानन्दं चैतन्य ईश्वरम् पूर्वे
गौरे गौरचन्द्राय राधिकाय तनालय कृष्णाय
कृष्णाय कृष्ण
तत्त्वाय नमो
नमः।
नमः।
हरे कृष्णा।
हरे कृष्णा।
Okay, so let's start chapter 13, Bhagavad Gita. Did anyone get a chance to read some few verses of this chapter? So this is we are, like I said, we are entering into the knowledge or the Gyan portion of the Bhagavad Gita. Some of you are very, very well versed with all these things that Arjuna and Krishna are talking about, but for new people, this may be a little difficult. So I will try to write everything and explain, but in this chapter, and we can read if you want, we can read all the translations once so we have an idea what we are talking about. Um, but Krishna will be talking about composition of the body, of the gross body, subtle body, consciousness, who is the what is the body, who is the knower of the body, who is Paramatma, who is Bhagwan. So he's talking about who is the enjoyer in the body, what is material nature or Prakriti, so constitution of the material nature. So we'll be talking about these kind of topics in this chapter. If you're okay, let's all read translations today at least once so we have idea what we're talking about. So there are 35 verses. Let's maybe read 2 each and we'll go from there. So let's start from, let's see, Ravi Prabhu, would you like to start? And then we can go to, on my screen, I have Vinita next, Puja Mataji and Anita Mataji. Next, let's do these and then let's see.
Hare Krishna, Hare Bol. Text 1 and 2, Chapter 13, Nature, the Enjoyer and Consciousness. Arjuna said, "O my dear Krishna, I wish to know about Prakriti, the nature, Purusha, the enjoyer, and the field and the knower of the field, and of knowledge and the object of knowledge." The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "This body, O son of Kunti, is called the field, and one who knows this body is called the knower of the field."
Hare Krishna. Great. Vinita, you
Hare
want to
Krishna.
read?
O sky of Bharata, you should understand that I am also the knower in all bodies, and to understand this body and its knower is called knowledge. That is my opinion. Now please hear my brief description of this field of activity and how it is constituted, what its changes are, whence it is produced, and who that knower of the field of activities is, and what his influences are. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Okay. Who's next?
Puja.
Yes. Text 5. That knowledge of the field of activities and the knower of activities is described by various sages in various Vedic writings. It is especially presented in Vedanta Sutra with all reasoning as to cause and effect. And text 6 and 7. The five great elements false ego, intelligence, the unmanifested, and the 10 senses, and the mind are five sense objects: desire, hatred, happiness, distress, the aggregate, the life symptoms, and convictions. All these are considered in summary to be the field of activities and its interactions. Very good.
Very bold.
Hare Krishna,
Hari
text
Bol,
8 to
everyone.
12. Oh, okay. Namita Mataji, you will. I thought it's my turn, but go ahead. Go ahead, Mataji.
Hari Bol, everyone. Text 8 to 12. Humility, pridelessness, non-violence, tolerance, simplicity, approaching a bona fide spiritual master, cleanliness, steadiness, self-control, renunciation of the objects of sense gratification, absence of false ego, the perception of evil of birth, death, old age, and disease, detachment, freedom from entanglement with children, wife, home with the rest, even-mindedness amid pleasant and unpleasant events, constant and unalloyed devotion to me, aspiring to live in a solitary place, detachment from the general mass of people, accepting the importance of self-realization and philosophical search for the absolute truth. All these are declared to be knowledge, and besides this, whatever they may be is ignorance. Haribo.
Very bold. Okay, Anita Mataji.
Text 13 and 14. I shall now explain the knowable, knowing which you will taste the eternal. Brahman, the spirit, the beginningless and subordinate to me, lies beyond the cause and effect of this material world. Everywhere are his hands and legs, his eyes, heads, and faces, and he has ears everywhere. In this way, the super soul exists, pervading everything. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Okay, who else is there? Murli Prabhu, Raina, you want to, and Avinash, you want to read to each? Text 15.
Hare Krishna. Text 15. The super soul is the original source of all senses, yet he is without senses. He is unattached although he is the maintainer of all living beings. He transcends the modes of nature, and at the same time, he is the master of all the modes of material nature. Text 16. The supreme truth exists outside and inside of all living beings, the moving and non moving. Because he is subtle, he is beyond the power of the material senses to see or to know. Although far, far away, he is also near to all. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Although the Supersoul appears to be divided among all beings, he is never divided. He is situated as one. Although he is the maintainer of every living entity, it is to be understood that he devours and develops all. Text 18. He is the source of light in all luminous objects. He is beyond the darkness of matter and is unmanifested. He is knowledge. He is the object of knowledge, and he is the goal of knowledge. He is situated in everyone's heart. Hare Krishna.
Text 19. Thus the field of activities, the body, knowledge, and the knowable have been summarily described by me. Only my devotees can understand this thoroughly and thus attain to my nature. Text 20. Material nature and the living entities should be understood to be beginnerless. Their transformation and the modes of matter are products of material nature.
Okay. Manisha Mataji and Balmukund Prabhu, Prinka Mataji, would you like to read to each?
Text 21. Nature is said to be the cause of all material causes and effects, whereas the living entity is the cause of the various sufferings and enjoyments in this world. Text 22. The living entity in material nature thus follows the ways of life, enjoying the three modes of nature. This is due to his associations with that material nature. Thus, he meets with good and evil among various species.
You go on. Okay. Yes, Prabhuji. We can't hear you, Prabhuji. Balmukund Prabhu. Okay. We can't hear you somehow. Prinka Mataji, are you available to read? Oh, actually, if not, then Avni.
Text 23. Are you able to hear me?
Okay. Yes, yes, Prabhuji, we can hear.
Hare Krishna. Text 23. Yet in this body there is another, a transcendental enjoyer, who is the Lord, the supreme preparator, who exists as the overseer, and permitter, and who is known as Supersoul. Text 24. One who understands this philosophy concerning material nature, the living entity, and the interaction of the mode of nature is sure to attain liberation. He will not take birth here again, regardless of his present position. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji. Okay. Avni, would you like to read? Avni and Sheetal Mataji.
26. Again, there are those who, although not conversant in spiritual knowledge, begin to worship the Supreme Person upon hearing about him from others. Because their tendency to hear from authorities, they also transcend the path of birth and death. Text 27. O chief of the Bharatas, know that whatever you see in existence, both the moving and the non-moving, is only a combination of the field of activities and the knower of the field.
28. One who sees the super soul accompanying the individual soul in all bodies, and who understands that neither the soul nor the super soul within the destructible body is ever destroyed, actually sees. Text 29. One who sees the super soul equally present everywhere in every living being does not degrade himself by his mind. Thus, he approaches the transcendental destination. Hari Bol.
Okay. Is Navya available to read? Navya, Navya Prabhu. Aniket, would you like to read meanwhile? Aniket Vishnu Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Text 30. One who can see that all activities are performed by the body, which is created of material nature, and sees that the self does nothing, actually sees. Text 31. When a sensible man ceases to see different identities due to different material bodies, and he sees how beings are expanded everywhere, he attains to the Brahman conception.
Hari Bol. Thank you so much, Prabhu. Okay. Is Navya available now? Yes. Unmute.
Those with the vision of eternity can see that the imperishable soul is transcendental, eternal, and beyond the modes of nature, despite contact with the material body. O Arjuna, the soul neither does anything nor is entangled. The sky, due to its subtle nature, does not mix with anything, although it is all pervading. Similarly, the soul situated in the Brahman vision does not mix with the body, though situated in the body.
I can read the last two. Krishna.
Let me
34.
see if Nana Prabhu is available to read.
Sure.
Nana Prabhu, would you like to read if you're available? Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
O son of Bharata, as the sun alone illuminates all this universe, so does the living entity, one within the body, illuminate the entire body by consciousness. Text 35. Those who see with eyes of knowledge the difference between the body and the knower of the body, and can also understand the process of liberation from bondage in material nature, attain to the supreme goal. Hare.
Be bold, Hare Krishna. So that was a glimpse into what we are reading, what 13th chapter contains. So let's get started. There is a prayer, actually, we should say a mantra before we start the chapter. So I'll just say that quickly. Om Tat Sat iti Srimad Bhagavad Gita Supanishadsu Brahm Vidyayam Yoga Shastre Shri Krishna Arjun Samvade Kshetra Kshetragya Vibhaga Yogo Nam Treyodash Adhyaya. Om Tat Sat. Hari Bol. Okay, let's start with try the first few verses. Text 1 and 2 are together. We'll recite and read and follow. 13.1 and 2. Please follow me. Arjuna Vacha
Arjuna
Arjunovacha
Uvacha
Prakritim Purusham Chaiva
Prakritim
Prakirtim
Purusham
Purusham
Chaiva
Chaiva
Kshetram Kshetragyameva Cha
Kshetram
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 Kshetragyam
Kshetragyameva cha.
Kshetragyameva
Etad Veditum Ichhami
Etat Veditum Ichhami
Jnanam Gyeyam Cha Keshava
Jnanam Jneyam
Jnanam
Cha
Cha
Keshava
Keshava
Shri Bhagavan Vacha
Sri
Shri
Bhagavan
Bhagavan
Uvacha
Uvacha
Idam Shariram Kaunteya
Idam
Idam
Shariram
Shariram
Kaunteya
Kaunteya
Kshetram Iti Abhidhiyate
Kshetram
Kshetram
iti
Kshetra
abhidhiyate
Vidyate
Etad Yoveti Tam Prahu
Etat
Etadyo
Yo
veti
Veti
tam
Tam
prahu
Prahu
Kshetrajya iti Tadvida
Kshetrajya
Kshetrajya iti
iti Tadvidaha
tadvita
Okay, so let's see if anybody would like to read the translation again. Let's start from the beginning. Yes, Vaidehi, please.
Hare Krishna. Arjuna said, "Oh my dear Krishna, I wish to know about Prakriti, nature, Purusha, the enjoyer, and the field and the knower of the field, and of knowledge and the object of knowledge." The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "This body, O son of Kunti, is called the field, and one who knows this body is called the knower of the field." Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Actually, let's read the next one too because they all tie together. Arjun is asking a question and Krishna is answering. So the answer continues a little bit more in this verse. And this is very, very important verse. So if anybody would like to, I don't know actually if this is in the 108 verses, but this is the one that needs to be memorized. 13.3. Kshetragyam chapi mam vidhi.
यं चापि मां विधि
सर्वक्षेत्रेषु भारत
सर्वक्षेत्रेषु भारत
क्षेत्र क्षेत्रज्ञोर्ज्ञानम्
क्षेत्रक्षेत्रज्ञोर्ज्ञानम्
यत्तज्ज्ञानं मतं माम्
यत्तज्ज्ञानमतं मम.
Okay, anyone? Whether you want to read this one also?
Sure. O scion of Bharata, you should understand that I am also the knower in all bodies, and to understand this body and its knower is called knowledge. That is my opinion.
Hari Bol.
So let's take the last verse again, last two verses, and these three verses we'll try to understand first. So here Arjun is asking a question and he's asking Krishna about 6 things. Okay, he's asking about Prakriti, okay, Purusha, Prakriti, Purusha, Kshetram, Kshetragya, so number 4, Kshetragya, number 5, Jnanam or knowledge, and number 6, Gyam. Okay, so what does each word mean? Let go. And I know that Krishna will answer these things, but we will already try to understand them and then we can go fast when Krishna is answering. So Prakriti, as you all know, means nature, right? Material nature. Purusham means enjoyer. Okay. So initially in the first few verses, Krishna will say that Purusham or enjoyer is Jiva. Okay, Jiva. And later on he will say that he is also the enjoyer. He is actually the supreme enjoyer. But initially we'll take this Purusham as Jiva. Then number 3, Shaitram. Kshetra means field, like Kshetra, like Kurukshetra, right? The field where the Kauravas were fighting is Kurukshetra, right? So Kshetra means field, where a battle happens, where activities happen, where something is done. That is called the Kshetra or the field of your activities. So what is the field of our activities? It's our body. So Kshetra translating into English means field of activities, but it means body here because body is our field of activities. Okay, I'm just giving the meaning of each thing that Arjun is asking. Kshetragyam. Kshetragyam means who is the knower of that field of activities, meaning who is the knower of this body. Okay, who is the knower? Jnanam. What is the perfect knowledge? Okay, what is the best knowledge of or absolute knowledge or perfect jnana? Gayam. Gayam means what is the object of that knowledge? Okay, so what should our knowledge be directed at? So 6 things he has asked: about the nature or prakriti, about the jiva, the purusha, the body, the kshetra, the knower of that body, kshetragya, the perfect knowledge, jnanam, or gyam, the object of that knowledge. Okay, this is Arjuna's questions. And then Krishna is starting to answer in verse 2. Sri Bhagavan Vacha, what does he say? Idam shariram kauntya, that this sharir, so right, sharir is body. Idam shariram kauntya kshetram iti abhidiyate, that this sharir or this body is called the kshetra, the field. It is called the field. So very straightforward, right? And the Kshetragya, he says, the knower of that field is called the Kshetragya. Let me pull the translation. So the one who knows this, so that Sharir is the Kshetra, and one who knows that Sharir is called the Kshetragya, or one who knows this body is called the Kshetragya, or the knower of the field. Okay. So he did not answer about Prakriti or Purusham yet. Okay. He answered about this part here. He answered about Kshetram and Kshetragya. Okay. So let's understand this with, let me write some stuff so we can keep our thoughts organized. And I know that some of you are very, very well versed with all these concepts, but this can be a little bit confusing sometimes. Avni, is it possible to make me host? I'm not able to do much. Okay, yes, thank you. Perfect. Okay, so I will just take what Arjun asked in 13.1, right? Would everyone like to pitch in? What did Arjun ask? 6 things he asked.
What is the material nature?
Right. So
Prakriti,
he asked about Prakriti, which we are saying is material nature.
nature,
Then Purusha.
Purusham,
So 2 P's, Prakriti and Purusha. So Purusha we are saying is the enjoyer, and for now we are understanding this as the Jiva. Okay. Then Shaitram.
Kshetra,
And Shaitram, Krishna has already answered, is the Sharir or the body. Right. Then
body,
Jnanam.
Kshetragya,
Kshetragya. So Kshetragya is the knower of this body.
no,
That also Krishna answered already. Knower of this body is the Kshetragya. Then
Jnanam,
Jnanam. So Jnanam is the knowledge or the perfect knowledge.
knowledge,
And then who's the
Gaya,
Gayam. Gayam.
Gaya,
Gayam is the object of the knowledge.
object,
Where should our knowledge be directed? Object of the knowledge. So let's take each of this. So let's start with the Kshetra that Krishna has already answered, right? And we will discuss a little bit more in detail because Krishna is going to give these details in the future verses. He's going to give everything. He's going to give what is the constitution of this body, gross body, subtle body, spirit, soul, what is the consciousness, what is material nature, everything. So we can already discuss these. That way, when Krishna is answering, we'll go a little fast then. Okay. So body, right? That is the field of our activities. That is why it is called Shaitram. You can still see my screen, right? Field of activities. That is why it is called Shaitram. This is where who does their activities? Who is doing their activities in this field, in this body? Jiva, right? The spirit soul is doing their activities, right? So why does one get a body? Why does Jiva get a body? So Jiva gets their body, that is why Jiva is called enjoyer. They get their body because of their propensity to enjoy or based on their capacity to enjoy, separate from Krishna, right? However much we want to enjoy, whatever is our capacity to enjoy, in that way we will get the body. Okay. For example, somebody, very loose examples I'll give, very basic. Somebody likes to kill animals and eat meat all the time. They are very addicted to the meat. They cannot give it up. They like to hunt, they like to kill animals and eat. So what kind of body will they get in next life? Based on this capacity, based on this tendency. Somebody
Like an animal.
Yeah, like some kind of carnivorous animal, right? Like a lion or a tiger or something, right? So based on that, they will get that kind of body, right? And this is just an example, but so many examples are given. Like Prabhupada used to give an example. If you like to show off your body, you know, that people that don't like to wear clothes. So what kind of body will that person get?
Tree.
Huh?
Tree.
Tree, like a tree, right? You stand showing off your body for many, many thousands and thousands of years, get a body of the tree, right? You don't have to wear clothes ever again or for a long time. So yes, so based on our capacity to enjoy, according to our capacity to enjoy, we start getting that kind of body, right? It's like so human body, whatever activities we do, we get that kind of body in the next life. But once you go into animal species, then it is just a cycle. We don't really know how the cycle goes, but you keep going through the 8.4 million species, one after another, and you keep traveling until you come back to human body again, right? So human body is very, very rare to get. But body, whatever body one gets, whether it's an animal body, plant body, various kind of even human species, there are so many human species with different consciousness, right? So whatever body we get, that is called Shaitram. That is the field of our activity, right? This is where the jiva is trying to enjoy with its senses. They are trying to do the sense gratification based on the type of body they get. Like a pig would like to eat stools and enjoy that very much. Why not? This is their feast, the stools, which is very disgusting, and our waste product is a feast for pig or a hog. So in this way, whatever propensity one has, on that based on that propensity, one gets a body, and the jiva tries to enjoy. So jiva here is the enjoyer or the purusha, right? And Prakriti, we all understand this material nature, which controls the jiva with its three modes or three gunas, right? Three modes or three gunas, right? So we know those three modes. Would anyone like to quickly mention the three modes? One of the kids. Puja Mataji, are you familiar? What are the three gunas? Three modes. Or
She
Yes,
knows, I think.
Mataji.
yes, go ahead, Puja.
Mataji, mode of goodness, mode of passion, and mode of ignorance.
Perfect. Yes. So this is in English mode of goodness, passion, and ignorance. So goodness means what is it called in Hindi?
Rajogun.
So goodness is the satogun. Okay. The rajogun is passion. Okay. And the ignorance is the tamogun. Right. So these three modes of material nature control us, like three chains controlling the jiva. Right. And does everybody know that the material nature is made up of matter, right? Made up of matter, right? And what is this body or the kshetram made of? Matter or spirit?
Both.
Body, the kshetra that is given to us, like the body of a pig or body of a tiger or human.
Matter, Mataji, 5 matter.
Matter, right? So this is made of matter. Okay. The purusha, the enjoyer, lives inside this body, right? So the jiva is also known as spirit soul, lives inside this body, right? What is that made of? The spirit soul or the jivatma, is that made of matter or spirit?
Spirit.
Spirit, yes. Right? So this is spiritual. Okay, good. Okay. So then Krishna also answered already about Kshetragya. Who is the knower of this body? Okay, let's take this a little bit more. So the knower of this body, according to Krishna, and we will read in the later verses, is the jiva or the super soul. Okay, but they are not the complete knower, right? Who else is another knower of that body? Because in verse 13.3, Krishna said, I am also the knower, right? The one that I said we need to memorize, Kshetragyam Chapi Mam Vidhi, Sarva Kshetreshu Bharata, right? So Jiva is one of the knowers. Like I know my body somewhat, not completely, but know somewhat, right? And I have no idea about anybody else's body, what is going on in their mind, what are they doing at this time, right? I have no idea, right? I have no idea what such and such person is eating, doing, planning, thinking, willing, feeling, no idea, right? So I have some idea about my body. So I'm knower of this particular body. But who else is the knower? In a body, who else lives other than Jiva? Yes, Prabhuji, please go ahead.
Paramatma Mataji, super soul.
Paramatma, right? So super soul also lives inside this body. Okay. So let's take this point here. Let's take this point about the knower. So knower of the body, we said one is the jiva or the spirit soul, and the other knower is the Paramatma or the super soul. Is everybody clear on this? Any questions? Please ask. Then we'll move forward. Anybody, any questions? This is a little getting a little technical, so please ask. But we've been reading about this from the very beginning, actually. Prabhupada keeps bringing this up. So, this is clear, right? Okay. Okay, and we've done this in the past. We've actually made this table before also. So Jiva is the spirit soul, right? And remember that Jiva is very small, so it is also called Anuatma. Anuatma, right? Very small. It's the size. Can somebody tell the size of the Jivatma?
1 by 10,000 part of the hair.
The tip of the hair, right? 1 by
Yeah, tip of the
10,000th of the tip of the hair. That is the size of the Anuatma. So very small. Whereas the Paramatma is Vibhu Atma, which is infinite, right? Everywhere. There is no beginning, no end. We don't, vast. We cannot calculate the size. Okay, perfect. And then, so this knower, between the two knowers, Jiva knows some things, right? He's individual knower. He knows about this body somewhat, but he's not the complete knower, right? So Paramatma is the complete knower. He knows everything about the body. Like for example, I don't know if right now there is a disease brewing inside my body. I have no clue, right? I cannot, if I eat something, I cannot make that digestion happen. I don't know how to get the gastric juices out. This is happening out of my control. This is completely involuntary happening, right? I'm not able to control that. Tomorrow what is going to happen to my body, I have no idea, right? If I'll be healthy, if I'll be happy, if I'll be sick, or if I'll be sad, no idea, right? So but Paramatma is the complete knower who knows everything, who knows everything. I don't even remember what I ate yesterday. Even though I ate in this body, I have no idea. But Paramatma knows everything. He knows everything that has happened with this body in the past, what will happen in the future, what is going on right now, voluntary things, involuntary things, everything. Paramatma knows, right? Also, not only he knows about this body, he knows about the infinite other bodies that are there, right? So, so I only, the Jiva only knows, is the individual knower of this particular body. Some stuff he knows of this body, of this body. Whereas Krishna says, Kshetragyam chapi mam vidu sarva kshetreshu bharata. Of all the bodies I know. Sarva kshetreshu. I know about all the bodies that are there, whether they are plant bodies, animal bodies, human bodies, any bodies that there are, I know about all of them. We know, we have incomplete knowledge and of this body, whereas Krishna has complete knowledge of all the bodies. So incomplete knowledge. And Krishna has complete knowledge of all the bodies. Right? Is this okay, right, so far? Okay. And we have learned so many differences between the jiva. Even though both are spiritual, we know that the jivatma is fallible, can make mistakes, do so many things that are wrong, whereas Paramatma is infallible, can never do anything wrong, right? And we think we are the controller, but we are very, very partial controller of this body, right? Some things I can control, but like I was talking about digestion or diseases, things like that, I cannot control, right? So I'm controller. I can do some control on this activity, on this body. I can decide, okay, I will eat this, I will not eat that. I will exercise, or how much I will exercise. So I have some control, We are not completely out of control, but we are partial controller. Krishna is the complete controller, or the you can say supreme controller. So that is why supreme controller in Sanskrit is called Ishvara. The one who's not only controlling that person, but everybody else also, everything also, right? So supreme controller. We are partial controller, he's supreme controller. Similarly, we are enjoyer, no doubt. We enjoy this body. We enjoy it through the senses, through mind, through intelligence, through various things we enjoy. But again, and that is why we are called Purusha. But there is another enjoyer who's the supreme enjoyer, and that is Paramatma. So he is the supreme enjoyer, right? This enjoyer concept Krishna will mention later in the chapter, so we won't talk about it too much, right? One is a servant, right? Other is the Lord, right? We are the proprietor of this body. We only own this body, or we think we own this body, right? We own this body somewhat. But Krishna is the supreme proprietor who owns not only this body, but all the other bodies also, right? So there are two knowers of the body. One is the Jiva and other is the Paramatma, and these are the differences between them, okay? So this is just to get everybody started off on this. Is there any question so far about this? Let's see. Namita Mataji, are you okay?
Yes, Mataji, very beautifully explained. I tried to read this earlier in the week and I was so confused, but this makes sense now. So thank you.
Okay, so I think so. This is the part. This is the concept about the knower. So we know who is the knower, and we know what is the body or the Shaitram, the field of activities, which is made of matter, and the knower, which is spiritual, can be Jivatma or Paramatma, right? So this part, so far this part, Krishna has explained. Let's read a little bit more. And actually, I will read a portion from the first two verses from the purport. So Prabhupada says, this body is the field of activity of the conditioned soul. The conditioned soul is entrapped in the material existence, and he attempts to lord it over the material nature. And so according to his capacity to dominate material nature, he gets a field of activity, or he gets a body. Okay? Then later on in the purport, he says, now starting with the 13th chapter, how the living entity comes into contact with the material nature and how he is delivered by the Supreme Lord through the different methods of fruitive activities, cultivation of knowledge, and discharge of devotional service are explained. Although the living entity is completely different from the material body, he somehow becomes related. This is also explained. So basically the goal of this, somebody will say, why are we learning so much about the body, about the soul, the Paramatma? Because that is the perfect knowledge. So when Arjun asks what is the jnanam, that is the perfect knowledge, so that we can completely understand that we are not this body, we are not the supreme controller, we are not the supreme enjoyer or proprietor. There is somebody else residing within us who's watching all our activities. So what we do, if we do it for that person who is the supreme enjoyer, the supreme controller, then we can get delivered from this body. So right now we are doing everything for the the small anu atma, for the control, for the partial controller, the partial enjoyer, the partial proprietor. But instead, if we do everything for the one that is sitting next to that partial controller, which is supreme person, the supreme controller, supreme enjoyer, if we align all our activities for the gratification of that person, then we can get delivered from this body. Until we have a tendency to enjoy this body for ourselves, to enjoy these senses, mind, intelligence, ego for ourselves, we will be trapped in this body and will remain embodied, right? So we will remain in the control of the three gunas and will remain embodied. That is why the term embodied soul comes from. The soul is not supposed to be embodied, but it becomes embodied. It gets a body because it wants to enjoy separate from Krishna. So if we use this body for the enjoyment of the Supreme, who is the Supreme Enjoyer, then one has the one can get delivered from this body and never get a body again. So that is why this is called perfect knowledge, or the jnanam that Arjun is asking, and that is why this knowledge is important. Now there is very, very detailed analytical knowledge of the body and the spirit, and that is called Sankhya Yoga, very, very analytical knowledge. And actually Bhagavatam, 3rd canto, chapter 26. So 3rd canto deals with the later half deals with Kapila Muni's teachings to his mother Devahuti. Okay, Kapil Muni is none other than the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and he gave the teaching of this analytical study of body, matter, spirit, soul, everything to his mother Devahuti. All that details are given in Bhagavatam. We don't need to go into too much details. We'll go into what is important for us. What is important for us is to realize how this body is meant for service of Krishna and not for our own sense enjoyment. If we are using it for a sense enjoyment purpose, then we will not be able to get out of the cycle of birth and death and will remain embodied. We'll keep getting body based on the propensity to enjoy. So that is the main reason to read this, very, very important knowledge. Is that understandable? Okay. And this verse
Mataji, you did a very well explanation, Mataji. Thank you. It's really good for the newcomers also and for us also.
Prabhuji, you already know everything. So thank you for listening so patiently to the same things over and over. Okay. So this verse 13.3 we already covered. Krishna says this word here is important. I am also the knower in all the bodies. He says, Kshetragyam cha api. Cha api here means also, that I am also the knower in all the bodies. Okay. And then he says to understand this body and its knower is called the knowledge. So not only we are trying to understand the body, we are trying to understand both the knowers. Which knower? The Krishna and the Jiva. That knowledge is called knowledge. And Krishna says very humbly, that is my opinion. So in so many verses he just gives his opinion. It's like he's the supreme authority of everything, so his opinion is the only opinion that matters, but he just says that is my opinion. So this is so far. Let's keep reading more. Would anyone like to add anything or share any doubts, realizations before we move on? Raina, are you good? Raina and Nilsson? Yes, okay. Okay, let's read 13.4 then. Takshetram yacha yadricha
Tatchitram yajyayat
yadvikari yatascha yat
yadvikari yashayat
sacha yo yat prabhavascha
sachayo yatprabhavascha
tatsamasena me shrunu.
Tattasamasena me shinu.
Would anyone like to read this?
I can read my Mataji.
Okay, go ahead.
No, 18 पढ़ो. Yeah, 18 पढ़ो first. 18.
जोर से पढ़ो.
Now, please hear my brief description of this field of activity and how it's constituted, what its changes are, once it's produced, who the knower of the field activities is, and what his influences are.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Let's read actually two more, because Krishna will Krishna is just saying that I'm going to hear my brief description about these things, and then he will going to answer what the description is. So let's hear a little bit more. 13.5. ऋषिभिर्बहुधा गीतम्
ऋषिभिः बहुधा गीतम्
छन्दोभिर्विविधैः पृथक्
छन्दोभिर्विविधैः पृथक्
ब्रह्मसूत्रापदैश्चैव
ब्रह्मसूत्रापदश्चैव
हेतुमद्भिर्विनिश्चितैः
हेतुमद्भिर्विनिश्चितैः.
So look at how much we don't have control over our body. I was trying to sing the same tune as last one, but when I opened my mouth, this other tune came out. So that tells you that one has no control. We think we are such huge lords. I was trying to sing that tune, but when I opened my mouth, this old tune came out again. So whatever Krishna wills happens, not our will doesn't stand. Okay, Atharv Prabhu, would you like to read another one?
Read faster.
That knowledge of the field activities, that knowledge of the field of activities and of the knower of activities is described by various sages in various Vedic writings. This is especially presented in the Vedanta Sutra with all reasoning as the cause and effect.
So this verse, Krishna is saying that all the sages have given this knowledge, and it is also written in various Vedic writing and Vedanta Sutra. But he's not given the knowledge yet. So let's read one more, and we'll put them all together. So this is actually 13.6 and 7. So here he's giving the answer to what is the composition of the body and what is the influence of the knower and who is the knower. Mahabhutani ahankaro
महाभूतानि अहङ्कारो
बुद्धिर अव्यक्तम एव च
बुद्धिरव्यक्तमेव च
इंद्रियाणि दशैकं च
इन्द्रियाणि दशैकं च
पञ्चचेन्द्रियगोचरा
पञ्चेन्द्रियगोचरः
इच्छा द्वेषा सुखम दुःखम
इच्छा द्वेष सुखं दुःखं
संगातश्चेतना धृति
संघातश्चेतना धृतिः
एतत् क्षेत्रं समासेन
एतं क्षेत्रं समासेन
सविकारमुदाहृतम्
स्वीकारमुदाहृतम्.
Prabhuji wanted to read?
Yes, Mataji, I can read. The five great elements, false ego, intelligence, the unmanifested, the 10 senses, and the mind, the five sense objects, desire, hatred, happiness, distress, the aggregate, the life symptoms, and convictions. All these are considered, in summary, to be the field of activities and its interactions. Haribol.
Okay. So let's take all these three together. Four actually. There are four verses. So we'll go back to 13.4. Krishna says that now hear my description of this field of activity, or he's going to describe about this body. How is it constituted? So yatcha here means yatcha means composition. What is the composition of this body? Yadrikcha, what are the qualities of this body? Okay. Yad vikari, vikari means what are the changes or transformations that happen in this body? Okay. Yatascha, what is the origin of this body? Okay. What is the origin? So four things, right? Yatcha, yadrikcha, yadvikari, yatascha. Four things. Yat sacha, this one. The identity of the knower. Who is the knower? Yat prabhavas is the, what is the influence of that knower? Okay. 6 topics Krishna says, I will tell you, I'll give you a brief description of this field of activity. And we'll write these down so we can um, remember again. And in the next verse, Krishna is quoting references. So even Krishna gives references, right? So what are we? We should always give references whenever we talk, right? Because especially Krishna is talking to his dear friend Arjuna, but he's also talking to all of us. And a lot of the people are not believers. They don't believe in Krishna. They don't believe in a supreme person, right? So for them, he's giving references that actually the knowledge of all of this, the field of activities, meaning the body. Whenever you see field of activities, just hear body in your head, right? The knowledge of the body, the knower of its activities. Everything has been described by various sages. So he says, Rishibir Bahuda Gitam. Gita meaning to glorify, or the people that have sung about this. So Bahuda Rishi, many sages have sung about this, have talked about this. Chandobir means in various Vedic literatures. Vividha means various. Chandobe means Vedic literature or Vedic hymns. Prithak, like many separate Vedic literatures have talked about this knowledge. Okay, and he's giving one of those Vedic literature, very important to us, that is very dear to us. We quote from it all the time, right? Which is Brahma Sutra, or also known as Vedanta Sutra, right? Vedanta Sutra. So who can tell what is the narration or commentary on Brahma Sutra, Vedanta Sutra? What is the commentary on Vedanta Sutra?
Is it like Brahma?
Yes, Vinita.
Oh, sorry, Hare Krishna. I didn't mean to say that.
So Brahma Sutra also means Vedanta Sutra. What is the commentary available on Vedanta Sutra that we read and quote? Yes, Vedanta.
Is it this Tu Srila Baldev Vidyabhushan who presented so nicely the Govinda Bhasya commentary on
Yes.
Vedanta philosophy?
Yes, that's one. Very nice. Hari Bol. Can we say 3 times Hari Bol for Vedahi? Hari Bol.
Hari
Hari
Bol,
Bol.
Hari
Hari
Bol,
Bol.
Hari Bol, Hari
Okay.
Bol.
Vedahi, can you repeat it?
But
Repeat your answer.
Mataji, just to clarify the audience, she was intelligent enough to know where the information is in the Gita. She did not remember it, but she knew where the information is.
That's okay. Yeah, that's perfect, Prabhuji. It's
That is
okay.
what I'm saying. She has that much memory to look for the information, where to look for.
Wow. Can you repeat your answer?
Yes. And it says Tu Srila Baldev Vidyabhushan who presented so nicely the Govinda Bhashya commentary on Vedanta philosophy.
Yes. So that was Baldev Vidyabhushan, very celebrated acharyas, who was a disciple of Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. And he gave this Govinda Bhasya commentary on Vedanta Sutra, right? And what is a natural commentary on, like, it was not a commentary, but it is considered by Gaudiya Vaishnavas the natural commentary on Vedanta Sutra, that is Srimad Bhagavatam. Okay. So they used to make this point, we don't need any commentary on Vedanta Sutra because we have Srimad Bhagavatam. That is a natural commentary on Vedanta Sutra. We don't need any commentary written by an Acharya. But then at that time, in that age, people would not take the Vaishnavas seriously unless they had a commentary. So Srila Baldev Vidyabhushan decided to write this Govinda Bhasya commentary on the Vedanta Sutra. And this Bhagavad Gita that we are reading is taken from that commentary. So we are actually reading from the commentaries on Vedanta Sutra, the very source that Krishna has cited in his verse here, right? Is that okay? Clear? Nobody is getting confused. Okay. So Vedanta Sutra is basically, or Brahma Sutra is basically the last word of the Vedas. It is the summary of the Vedas. It starts from what is the goal of human life and goes to the highest perfection of human life. Okay. So that is Brahma Sutra. He's saying that it is especially presented in the Vedanta Sutra with all reasoning as to cause and effect. Cause and effect meaning what causes us to get a body and what happens when we get a body. What is the cause of getting the body, and effect means what happens when we get the body, right? So that is the cause and effect. All of this is his citing references are given. So in the purport, I won't go into too much detail, don't want to confuse anybody. So Prabhupada is saying, is giving references about the individuality of the soul. Okay. For those of you who are new, we have talked about individuality of the soul starting from second chapter, where basically what it means is that soul is separate from Bhagwan. Soul has its individual identity and does not just become one with the Bhagwan, or does not just merge into Bhagwan. It has its spirit, separate individual identity which it always maintains. So he talks about duality and non-duality. Because the reason I'm mentioning this is when you are reading the purport, you may get confused by this account of duality or non-duality. So duality is what we believe in, that we are separate from Bhagwan. We have the same constitution, but we are separate entity, and we are all separate entities, right? So, and then in purport, Prabhupada has given some, uh, he's talked about the Panch Koshas. Okay, some of you may be familiar with this. I will not go into too much details. Please, you can read it separately. But there are 5 koshas. Kosha basically means that 5 layers of the. This is the composition of the body. So 5 layers. The outermost layer is called Annamaya Kosha. Okay, which is very superficial, which is what we feed, what we take care of typically, and we try to perform all our activities. Most people don't rise above Annamaya Kosha. There is a more superficial layer. The next layer within the Annamaya Kosha is the Pranmaya Kosha, where all the pran or the life air flows, right? So the great sages focus on controlling the pran or the life air. So they reach inside within the second layer, which is Pranmaya. Then there is further inside, there is a third layer, which is called Gyanmaya Kosha, which deals with the knowledge, or it is also called man something. So it deals with the mind. It does the function of
Mano,
yes.
Manomaya Kosha Mataji. Manomaya.
Manomaya Kosha is the third, same as the Gyanmaya, which has the function of thinking. So now the subtle body is starting. Okay, thinking, willing, and feeling. Then comes Vijnanmaya Kosha further inside, which comprises of intelligence and false ego, okay, Buddhi and Ahankar. And here, when we start purifying ourselves at that deep level, that's when we start to realize our spiritual nature, or Brahman realization, okay, that we are spiritual actually. We are not this body, we are not even this, just this life here, we are not even this mind. We have to get rid of the body, mind, and life hairs. And we are, this intelligence and ego needs to be purified, and that is called Brahman realization. And the innermost layer is the Anandamaya Kosha, which is basically the spirit soul, or the Jivatma. And this is the injunction of Vedanta Sutra. It is called Anandamayo Bhyasat. That means the nature of the Jiva and Paramatma, both is to be always blissful, always Anandamaya. So that Anand or bliss one can reach with the Anandamaya Kosha, which is absent in the Brahman realization. Okay, Brahman realization is when people focus, sit in dhyan or do Ashtanga yoga, and they can reach the spiritual realization, cleanse themselves of all the impurities of the ego and intelligence. But we have to reach the blissful stage of Anandamaya Kosha, which is the innermost part of the body. So this is very, very gross explanation, and I don't want to confuse much, because Prabhupada doesn't talk about these Panch Koshas too much. He goes straight to bliss. Just engage in the service of the Lord and you can realize the Anandamaya Kosha. So, but Ravi Prabhu, if you have any more insights, please share any thoughts on this.
No, Mataji. Basically, I mean, as you said, we don't need to go further detail into this. Um, what you just said, yes, I mean, we identify most of the time with mostly just Anamaya because that's what we are sense gratification and eating. So that's where mostly we are kind of most of the time, most of us are fixed with Anamaya. Then, if we want to progress, that's where we do the pranayam and we try to regulate the pran. But you said everything right, Mataji, and then the end when people completely are able to control their anamaya and pranamaya and then the emotion which is the manomaya and then gyan and vigyan. Basically, when they have the gyan in the third level, that is the manomaya, like controlling the emotion and getting the knowledge. And once they start using the gyan, it becomes vigyan, like a special knowledge, a skill knowledge. And that's where you become wise and one become wiser. And that's how they are able to go into Anandamaya, basically just completely able to control the whole thing, like following all the Ashtanga yoga processes, and then are able to be in the bliss form all the time. That's Anandamaya. But yeah, I think as you said, since we have a different category and level of devotees here, I think just to know the names should be the more than enough for now. If people have more interest, they can go in details.
Yes, Prabhuji. Yes.
Hari bol, Mataji.
Very good. Thank you. I'll just show a picture so everybody, just for kids at least. So this is just like the layers. Outermost layer, Annamaya. The next layer is Pranmaya, the yellow one. Then comes the Manomaya, this light blue. The dark blue is the Vijnanmaya, and this the darkest one inside of this is the Anandamaya, right? So just very, very basic. Okay. So this was the verse where Krishna was sharing the references, and he says that Vedanta Sutra has all the knowledge, and so many other rishis have also commented on it. And then let's go to the next verse, which we already read also, 13.6 and 7. So now he said, I'll give you a brief description of the body, its constitution. So let's write what he was saying so we don't get lost. We'll just finish with this understanding, then take it next time. So in 13.4, Krishna says, I will give you brief description about all these things, okay? I'll just write it here. He says, Yacha. This is the composition of the body, or the matter, you can say, composition of the body or matter. Whatever the material nature is made of, body is also made of the same thing. So you can say of the body or the matter or the prakriti. All this is made of same thing. This is Yacha. Then he says Yadrikcha. So Yadrikcha means qualities of this body. Okay. Then he says Yad Vikari. Vikari means the vikar or changes or transformation that happens in this body. Changes or transformations that happen in this body. Okay. Yatascha. Yatascha. Yatascha meaning origin of this body. Okay. So this is all about the body. Then he talks about knower. He says, and then I'll also tell you who is the knower, which we already talked about, Yat Sacha. He says, I will give you the identity of the knower. Identity of the knower. And then he says, Yat Prabhava. What is the power or influence of that knower? This also we talked about, that we have influence partially over our body, versus Krishna has influence over so many bodies and complete influence over us. We know some things about our body. Krishna knows past, future, present, everything about that body. So influence or power of the knower, right? Two knowers, who has what influence on the body. And who is that knower? Identity of the knower. And we know that there are two knowers. Okay. So this is 13.4. Then in 13.5, 6, he starts giving the answer. So let's see what the answer is to all these questions. What is the composition of the body? What is the qualities of the body, which he will give in 13.7. And transformation, he will keep talking from 13.7, 20. Origin also he'll keep talking in many, many verses later on, 21, 22, 30, many, many verses. So composition of the body. Okay, now this is a little bit, again, difficult to understand for somebody who's new. So he says, five great elements meaning Panch Mahabhut. Okay, can anyone name the 5 great elements or the Panch Mahabhut? Okay, whether he knows. Who else knows? Does Vinita know the 5 big elements, great elements that make the nature, the body, and everything, all the matter?
Is it fire, earth, water, uh, fire?
Yes.
Uh,
You got
fire, earth, water, air.
And one more.
And
one more is?
I don't remember.
Okay. Ether. Yes, somebody answered ether. Yes.
Okay.
So, right, air, earth, water, fire, ether, right? 5 main elements. This is called Panch Mahabhut, right? They make the matter, they make the body and the material nature both, right? So that is 5 things. And remember, we have counted in the past. Yes, Prabhuji.
No, Mataji, since we are discussing, I just wanted to share the detail just in one line. The water is 72%, the earth is 12%, air and fire is 6%, and the ether is the remaining. So, but ether is like the sky, so it's not 100%, it's like more than that. So, but the most thing to know that I try to practice is the water part, because we are 72% water, so we need to drink more water, not anything else.
That's perfect. Yes, we are 72% water. Yes, thank you, Prabhuji. Perfect. So yeah, those 5 elements make up the body, okay, make up the matter. And then there are, what else makes the body? So what else makes up the body? I'll highlight here for everybody. Gross things. Who can, so I highlighted, right, the 10 senses, right? So let's start. Who can tell me what are the 2 main divisions of the senses? I'm sorry, I can't see the raised hands. Who else? Vinita, try. You want to try? What are the 5 senses? You can try. How do we perceive this world? How do we
see, hear, so eyes, mouth, nose, smell, and taste.
Right. Okay, Mataji, you went really fast. So let me, please go slow. We'll write down everything. Okay, so far we said there are 5 big material elements, and Rinka Mataji said air, water, fire, ether, and what did I miss? Water, fire, ether, and
Earth.
earth. Air, water, earth, ether, fire. Okay. And then we said 10 senses. Okay. So 10 senses can be 5 that Mataji mentioned are called knowledge acquiring senses. Okay. Knowledge acquiring. So out of 10, the 5 are the knowledge acquiring senses. Okay, Mataji, please mention again. What did you say again?
Taste, smell, hear, eyes, so see.
Right. So those are sense objects. So we'll say tongue, right? The senses are the tongue, eyes, ears, touch,
yes.
and one more.
Nose.
Eyes, ears, nose, right? Or you get, sorry, I should have written skin here. Skin, right? So these are the 5 knowledge acquiring senses, right? And then there are 5 working senses. These are karmendriya, with which we do actions. Karmendriya. So who can mention these? 5 Gyanendriya, 5 Karmendriya, 5 working senses. Let's see. Who can try? Shaitram Mataji, want to try? Please go ahead.
Hands,
Hands,
legs, आपका speech or
speech,
voice, in the
innocent,
anus, yeah, and the sex organ, genital.
innocent, genitalia, right? So these are the 5 working senses, right? So hands, leg, actually I should write voice here. Voice or speech. Hands, legs, voice, anus, and sex organs or genitalia. 5 working senses, right? You got this? So Krishna says that if you have the shloka open, Krishna says in 13.6 that Mahabhutani, okay? So these are the Panch Mahabhut or Mahabhutani. Later on he says Indriyani. So these are 10 Indriyas. The Shaikam means 11 Indriyas. So what is the Shaikam, the 11th Indriya, 11th sense? Yes, Vedant.
Mind.
Mind, right? Mind or man, right? Okay, perfect. And then in the verse he says Mahabhutani ahankaro buddhir avyaktam evacha. Okay, so we know that we have 3 elements of the subtle body. 3 elements of the subtle body. Okay, who can mention these 3? Let's see. Anita Mataji, would you like to mention?
Yes, Mataji. False ego,
False ego,
intelligence, and soul.
Okay. So soul is not part of the body, right? Soul is a separate entity, right? Soul is a spiritual entity. So it is mind, intelligence, and ego. Since we already counted mind, you can count it as part of subtle body or 11th sense. Krishna is calling it 11th sense here, the Shekam. So we have already counted it. So we will just write, for the counting purpose, I wrote 3 elements, but it is Man, Buddhi, Ahankar. So you already said Ahankar and Buddhi, which is intelligence. So we got everything. Okay, Buddhi. Man, Buddhi, Ahankar. This makes the subtle body. Okay. So, so far we have 5 and 10, 15 and 3, 18 things. We have to have 24. There are 24 elements. I should have started off with that. There are 24 material elements that make the matter, the body or the material nature, right? So we have 15. What about other things? We have 18. So 5 sense objects that Namita Mataji was mentioning before. 5 sense objects. And these are called tanmatras. Tanmatras. 5 tanmatras. So I think Namita Mataji already mentioned before. So this is taste. You want to mention again, Mataji?
Yes, so taste, smell,
Taste, smell,
touch,
touch,
hear,
hear,
and
what do we say? Sound.
hear.
Sound. And we can say one more.
Vision, see.
Vision.
Yeah, vision, yes.
We can say form. So to look at something, right? Now these in Hindi are called. So taste is the rasa. This is our sense object. This rasa is what we like to taste, right? Smell, gandha, rasa, gandha. Touch is sparsha. Okay. Sound is shabda, and form is rupa. Rasa, Gandha, Sparsha, Shabda, 5 tanmatras or 5 sense objects. So what do we have now? 5, 10, 15, 18 and 5, 23, right? One more thing. So one more thing. So one more
Soul.
thing is, Nimat, you're still talking about material elements. So soul is not material.
Okay.
So, so the thing that Krishna has mentioned, which is most difficult for me to explain, is avyaktam. He says Mahabhutani ahankaro buddhir avyaktam evacha indriyani dashaikam cha panch chendriya gochara. Chendriya gochara means the sense objects or the tanmatras, okay? And avyaktam. So what is avyaktam? Let's try to understand that. Avyaktam. Again, this comes in Bhagavatam in very, very detail. But so avyaktam is basically, in very, very crude understanding is that avyaktam is three gunas. Okay, this is just basic. Avyaktam basically means, has anybody heard of the word pradhan or mahatattva? Okay, so let's start. So you know when the material creation is made by Mahavishnu, right? How our universe is made? The universes come out of Mahavishnu's body, right? So there is this unmanifested, you can imagine like a cloud in the sky, which has no particular form yet. Okay, that cloud of material elements is all put together by Mahavishnu. That cloud is called Pradhan. Okay, these are all unmanifested right now. There is no form to it. That is called Pradhan. Pradhan then takes the form of Mahatattva. Okay, Mahatattva. Mahatattva. Okay, and this Mahatattva, when combines, and then he infuses Ahankar into it. When this combines with the Ahankar, it becomes our material creation or Prakriti. A form takes place, a shape comes, which is called Prakriti, and that has, into that he puts many, many universes. So this has many, many universes or lokas, right? Like from Brahma Loka down to Patal Loka. So 14 planetary system that we understand, right? Bhulok is in the center, and then there are all these Satya Loka. Kids know that better. Brahma Loka is the highest, and then down below is the Sutal, Vital, Patal, Latal, all those lokas. So many lokas come into each. So then the shape takes place. So there are many universes, and each universe has all these lokas, right? So that shape of Prakriti before it takes place is just very, very unmanifested, a Vyakt Roop that is called Pradhan or Mahatattva. Okay, so I'm not going into details of this. Again, more details will come in Bhagavatam. For now, we just need to understand what Krishna is talking about. So we can loosely use this as three gunas, okay, because this is none other than Prakriti, which controls us with three gunas, right? So I'll open Prabhupada's purport and read from there a little bit so we can understand. Okay, so let's go to now let's read here. Now the aggregate of these 24 elements is called the field of activity. If one makes an analytical study of these 24 subjects, then he can very well understand the field of activity. Okay, we are not going into 13.7 yet. Sorry, I wanted to read this one. The five great elements are a gross representation of the false ego, which in turn represents the primal stage of false ego, technically called the materialistic conception or tamas buddhi, intelligence and ignorance. This further represents the unmanifested stage of the three modes of material nature. So this line is important. Unmanifested stage of the three modes of material nature. The unmanifested modes of material nature are called pradhan. Okay, so very, very basic understanding that the three gunas, before they get manifested as a, you know, in us, they are unmanifested, and that is called pradhan. So when the creation takes place, they are not in any particular form, and that is called pradhan. So pradhan is the beginning of the material creation. From pradhan comes mahatattva. Into mahatattva, ahankara is infused with that the prakriti takes shape. Into Prakriti, various universes enter. Into each universe, Garbhodakshaya Vishnu enters. Many jivas are infused into each universe, right? So that is very, very complicated how the creation of material nature happens. But all starts from this very like smoky or cloudy thing called Pradhan. Is that okay?
माता जी थोड़ा और एक्सप्लेन कीजिए एक बार, क्योंकि ये वाला पूरा लाइन समझ में नहीं आ रहा है.
ये लाइन माता जी मुश्किल है समझना ये. This line that we read.
हाँ ये पूरा.
So basically, what it means is that everything starts from false ego. Okay, in the beginning of the creation, there is just this pradhan, which is unmanifested, cloudy thing. When into that primal stage of false ego, when false ego is infused, then the material creation takes place, which is made of all these 24 elements. So Prabhupada is saying the 5 great elements are the gross representation of the false ego. Like they happen, the 5 elements and everything manifest or come into play only when false ego enters. Otherwise, the material creation will not be made unless false ego enters, unless ahankar is entered. And that ahankar or false ego basically means materialistic conception or tamas buddhi. You can say like envy, the propensity to enjoy separate from Krishna, intelligence and ignorance. He is giving various names for this ahankar or false ego. So it's like a recipe. You put false ego in the pradhan and then the material creation with its all elements takes place. Okay. So माता जी बहुत ज़्यादा इसमें अभी मत सोचिए. When we read in Bhagavatam, things will get more clear. But the main, and other people will get confused here. So the main thing is that these 24 elements make the material creation, the body or the matter, everything that is matter is made of these 24 elements. And that is the field of activities or the place where Jiva does its activities, right? Then if we take the next verse 13.7, then Krishna talks about the interaction of these elements which lead to these things. Ichha, dvesh. Ichha means desires, dvesh means like aversion or hatred, sukham, dukham, happiness or distress. So when these elements come into play with each other, like for example, my tongue tastes gulab jamun, then I feel happy, and then I have desires to eat more gulab jamun, right? I develop this ichha, and when I see somebody else eating the gulab jamun, then I get envy from them or dvesha, huh? Or if I don't like something, then I get aversion to it, right? So because of the interplay of these elements, all these things happen. The ichha, dvesh, sukh, dukh, they happen because of the interplay between all these elements. Yes, anybody else wants to share? Then if not, then we'll do these last 2 lines. But before that, if you would like to ask.
Mataji, that Pradhan that you said, Mahatattva, what is that made of? The 3 gunas? Or it is nothing?
It is, I think, so Prabhupada says it is unmanifested 3 gunas. It is the unmanifested state of 3 gunas. The 3 gunas get manifested only when they get manifested in us, right? Like for example, somebody will say, what are the 3 gunas? Where are they? They are getting manifested in me by my activities, right? If I do good activities, that means I'm in mode of goodness. That is how mode of goodness is getting manifested in me by my good, charitable, nice activities. If I'm working, if I'm lazy, I'm sleeping a lot, very indisciplined, all this, then the mode of ignorance is getting manifested in me, right? So pradhan is basically the unmanifested state where these 3 gunas are not yet manifested. Unless all the elements come together, then this is able to show its form, and the form comes out in the form of jiva, the bodies, the prakriti and everything.
Are the 3 gunas like separate or like together? I'm sorry, I'm confused. Like in the Mahatattva, Are three gunas, when you're saying mode of goodness, ignorance, passion, are they individually present there, or there is nothing? Like it's zero, and then it's coming to something in the jiva?
Mataji, I am not very sure about either the question or the answer. Like in what my understanding is that all three modes are present there in this.
My question is like that the if we have to say pradhana, so pradhana is made up of mode of ignorance, mode of passion, and mode of no. Ravi Prabhu saying
What
no.
is, let's hear Ravi Prabhu's answer. Yes, Prabhuji.
Mataji, as you said, even the question is not very clear. So I think
My question is, how do these gunas are in the unmanifested? Like when they are interacting with the material nature, we are saying there are three modes. So do they exist
what
as one zero mode, like nothing, and then they're coming as three modes, versus there are three modes here and then they're coming three modes.
मतलब ये जो unmanifest और manifest होता है ना, it's very hard to describe what that unmanifest state is. Hmm? So let's just like read a little bit. But typically we have to
Yeah, a little. I think it's a beyond the scope of this class. We
right.
have to discuss this
Yeah.
later. But I think just to sum up, summary में जहाँ तक I have understood this part, see the soul has all this 24 thing entrapped in it. So like a soul is the case, okay, उसमें सब चीज भरा हुआ है. तो जो माता जी बता रही हैं कि जो प्रधान है जब क्रिएशन होता है तो वो प्रधान का तो अंश वी ऑलरेडी हैव द पार्ट ऑफ दैट प्रधान इन अस सो दैट सोल के अंदर वी हैव द मोड्स ऑलरेडी इन देयर आवर मोड द मोड दैट वी हैव ऑपरेटेड since the time immemorial. That's the modes is the unmanifested. That's what it is coming to my head. That is one element, that the mode of nature that we are going to be operating in future, or like we have operated in past. That is already with us in our soul, imprinted, along with all other subtle bodies and the gross body. The gross bodies we are going to take it along with the subtle bodies. So that is what is kind of coming to my head right now, that it comes to the pradhan gets the recipe, that the guna, and according to the guna you get the field.
Mataji, जो हमारी conception है ना, like we have to have a shape of everything in our head, your form, constitution. उसके basis पे it's very hard to understand. But this is from Canto 3. We can just read this. This here, Kapil Muni is talking to Devahuti about the material creation. So he says, "My dear mother, O daughter of Swambhuva Manu, the time factor, as I've explained, is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, from whom the creation begins as a result of the agitation of the neutral, unmanifested nature." Okay, so the nature by itself is neutral, unmanifested. It is unmanifested meaning कि जैसे कि okay, let's take an example. Let's say paint है versus painting. The paint has not manifested into a painting until the painter, and Prabhupada has used this example of painting and brush and painter. So paint ऐसे ही है लूज. अब कोई कहे कि पेंट की क्या फॉर्म है, तो पेंट तो जस्ट ऐसे एक लूज सब्सटेंस है, but when you make a picture with it, then a painting manifests. Similarly, the nature is unmanifested, it's neutral, it has no um, you know, it has all the three gunas in it. So by mixture of three gunas, it is unmanifested. But in our body, we can be manifesting a guna like a mode of passion, ignorance, or goodness. It will get manifested because of our propensities, our consciousness, our desires, right? So, अब जैसे purport में लिखा है, the unmanifested state of material nature, pradhan, is being explained. The Lord says that when the unmanifested material nature is agitated by the glance of Supreme Personality, it begins to manifest itself in different ways. Before this agitation, it remains in the neutral state without interaction by the three modes of. So the three modes of material nature are there. They are not interacting. They're just loosely. They're just there. In other words, material nature cannot produce any variety of manifestation without the contact of Supreme Personality of Godhead. जैसे ये body है, body becomes all unmanifest, right? When we die, it is all same elements, still the same elements, but without consciousness, it becomes unmanifest into ashes, or right, it goes away. But it is still there. The consciousness is needed for that body to do some activities. Similarly, the jivas are introduced into the prakriti to run the prakriti. Other than that, prakriti is neutral. But prakriti is able to do anything when jivas enter, when ahankar enters, when all these ingredients are put. So that is
So
my
is
understanding.
Pradhan matter? It's made of matter?
Pradhan is matter, yes. Pradhan is just matter. And usme se kuch cheeze, material element will take shape. They will take form. Yes, Nirbhukul. You want to share?
Yes, Hare Krishna. So just wanted to mention here. I heard the discussion, very interesting discussion, and this is very detailed matter as we have talked about. Even if we do not understand it 100%, it is okay. But if we want to understand in general, I like we say just a summary of it. There's the spiritual sky. It's like the sky, and then there's a little small cloud in it. That cloud in it is the Mahatattva. The everything else doesn't have any material part in it. The spiritual sky, it's mostly spirit, or most of it is spiritual. Doesn't have anything material in it. This small area of cloud, that is the area of material existence. All the material things, modes of material nature are there. The jivas, once it's decided that when jiva wants to enjoy separate from the Lord, right? Those jivas are introduced in the material nature then. The soul itself, as we discussed, um, I'm not sure what was that. Just wanted to clarify this, that the soul doesn't have, the soul cannot be affected directly by the modes of material nature before it is manifesting, right? So the soul is like, like we say, the drop of water that is coming from the sky. It is complete pure Satchit Anand. So that soul is not directly affected. The other components which go along with the soul, which are the man, buddhi, ahankar, as we pass from one body to another, those carry the sanskaras with it. The man, buddhi, ahankar. The soul, once it comes under once it comes in contact with the material nature, under the three modes of material nature, it does its activities. But it is not directly, if you say the soul itself in its pure state is not directly governed by the three modes of material nature. So the soul has to be in the material nature for it to be governed. If it is outside, not in the Mahatattva, in its pure state, then it is not governed by the three modes of material nature. Okay, Hare Krishna.
Yes, thank you. I was thinking the Kahoot on this chapter will be a lot of fun. See now.
Mataji, this is already you said the knowledge है ये तो ज्ञान योग है, so all the intellectual people will score high.
So that means you will again be on top.
No, Mataji, there are so many Jnani and Vijnani here on this platform, and they know who I'm talking. So many readers are here.
Okay, let me quickly mention the six transformation, the Yad Vikari. So what are the changes that happen in the body? Six transformations. This is again, I think everybody knows. So we take birth, right? We are born, then we grow, then we stay, then we make byproducts, and then we dwindle, and then we vanish or die. Okay, six vikaras or transformations, changes that happen in the body. So again, all these changes and all this these things, they happen because of the interaction with the material elements. So the body has to go through these changes, and body has all these desires, all this because of the interaction of material elements. So Krishna said that I will answer to you about the constitution of the material body, constitution of the kshetra or the body, and he gave us that. Then he says, all these happiness, distress, the aggregate of everything, the life symptoms, meaning the consciousness, the convictions, all these are considered to be the field of activities and its interactions. Okay, so they are the field of, these are the field of activities. The 24 material elements are the field of activities, and all these happen from its interaction. Okay. So the interaction between the life symptoms or the consciousness with the 24 material elements gives rise to all these things. Convictions is basically the interaction of the subtle elements like mind, intelligence, ego. When they are interplaying with each other, then our convictions happen, right? Just like desires and aversions, etc., happen more from the interplay of the senses, also subtle body, but more of the gross body. But convictions happen more on the level of the subtle body. Convictions mean things that we are very sure about, very faithful to. Like I have this firm conviction that Krishna is the supreme person. I have this firm conviction that chanting of holy name will deliver me. So, right, those convictions come from interplay between the mind, intelligence, and ego, or also with the consciousness. So all these things are happening with the interplay between the consciousness and the elements. So that is our field of activities and its interactions. Okay, that's all I had to share. I'm sure many some things everybody knew already before about gross body, subtle body, but this, I think, pradhan concept is a little bit new, difficult to understand. But remember that everything material is always unmanifested and becomes manifested and then becomes unmanifested again and becomes manifested again. So that cycle just keeps going. That is the nature of the matter, that it is always temporary and it will take shape, it will then will get destroyed. It will take shape again, then get destroyed again. That is why it is temporary. Unlike our spirit soul, Bhagwan, Paramatma, they are not temporary, they are eternal. Right? Okay, so the point of all of this knowledge is to understand this fact that the things that we are interacting with, that we are dealing with, are mostly all temporary. That we are eternal beings separate from all that matter, which is temporary. Okay. Anybody has any questions, realizations? Puja Mataji, were you able to follow? Yeah?
Yes, Mataji.
If nothing else, if you just remember what is the, gross body, subtle body, and that we are the spirit soul and constitution of the spirit soul, all those things, then that's basic. I mean, this is, and Prabhupada said himself here, actually, in this purport, he said that one who desires to know the 24 elements in detail along with their interactions should study the philosophy in more detail. In Bhagavad Gita, summary only is given. So he's already said that don't worry too much about this is Sankhya Yoga, right? This is analytical study of the all the elements. So for us to understand that, it's a different science altogether. We are just trying to understand the basics only. Okay, shall we?
Somewhere I read that the soul is above all these elements, and that's how I was a little bit confused that, okay, we are counting soul in this count like 24 elements or not. But then you clarified that we are counting only the material elements, and soul does not belong to the material elements. But then if we mix all the material elements plus soul, then it becomes spiritual body, or like what exactly we can say? Soul plus these 24 elements.
No, Mataji, that is just embodied living being, embodied living entity. Yes, Ravi Prabhu, you're saying something?
No, I was just saying the same thing. Deho is mean like the living entity living in the body, and it is the marginal energy. We are neither spiritual nor material. So we have the potency to go either way.
So, Mataji, body cannot be spiritual. Body plus soul is the embodied living being, right? We are trapped inside this body, right? So this is not spiritual. This is material. So even by soul entering into the body, it does not become, the body still is material. We have to get rid of it. Okay. So soul is spiritual and it gets rid of the body and then it acquires its spiritual body or spiritual potency. but it is in contact with the body right now, identifying itself with the body. So it is an embodied living being trapped inside it. Okay.
Thank you, Mata.
Okay, Hare Krishna, everyone. Let's chant one round.